Please, a round of applause for Mr. Ryan Grepper, everybody.
Hello. All right. They didn't say that it'd be Dig Dug here. This might be distracting for me. I love Dig Dug. All right, well, I'm really excited to be here today. I stopped by TechFest last year, and I think I'll just have a seat. And it was really exciting because the campaign was going on. It hadn't quite wrapped up, but we were still multi-millions, and it was very exciting, still very exciting. We're very excited that this last year happened. And so many of the questions that people were asking, other than how do you make a vodka Rita, was how did you do this? How did you have the success? How did you create your video? Who helped you do this? Who helped you do that? And it was really exciting. We're very grateful for everyone who backed us. And today, what I'm going to share a little bit more about is what comes after that. Because as challenging and exciting as last summer was, the real hard work happens after your campaign comes together. But it's hard to convince people that that's the truth. This is actually what people assume you're doing when they see your that $13 million comes in. But it's quite different if you are committed to actually really pushing the envelope and making sure that the people who supported you get what you promised. And for me, that was always the challenge. A lot of people would ask, oh my God, what does it feel like to have $13 million given to you? And it never really felt, there was a lot of work up before that point. It feels pretty good. But for me, I would always focus on that number above. Because when you look at this page, those two numbers represent the two most important things to be able to execute well on something. One is that money gives you the freedom to do it. You have a lot more resources to do things that you otherwise can't do, as you can imagine. But the flip side is that there's that responsibility. You've got 62,642 people who have backed you. They've supported you. They've committed to your idea, and they believe you can come through, and you promised you would. And they're expecting that. And so it's a very real sense of pressure to make sure that you deliver on what we said we'd do. This is the coolest cooler. We made it through this last year. We shipped our coolest in end of July, and I'm so excited that today is the first day that our earliest backers get to stop by and pick up their coolest. Yes. Yeah. In fact, just as I left to come here, I flew in from Hong Kong at about 11:30, went over, checked on things, and just as I was leaving, someone snuck in before the 2 o'clock window, and it was a mom and her two kids who were just off with 45 other kids on a camping trip, and they were so excited that it had finally shown up. And that is that payoff. This last year, that all this work, to see what they get from this. And the coolest has always been about making the ultimate cooler, but it's also been about my two biggest passions in life, which are getting outside and connecting and making new memories with family and friends. And as a product guy, I realized as this campaign kicked off that I would have the opportunity to make the cooler that I'd always imagined it could be. But I also realized that there was a much bigger opportunity. When this many people connected with an idea like this, I realized that we had more than just the opportunity for more than just a product or a single concept. We had the ability and the possibility to build a company, a brand that was bigger than the combination of features here. And as exciting as it was to make the product and focus on each part of it, it's also really exciting to think, what can you do with a company if you can over-deliver on your promise to 62,000 passionate early adopters? What can they help you accomplish next? So that's been the focus almost from day one, at least from the first week. Over-deliver. And this became the mantra. When in doubt, make it better. I'm a product guy, so I've created other products and I've licensed some products. And what that means is I'm taking my idea and I bring it to a company, and then they're bringing it out to the market. And while that's much easier, it also can be very frustrating because you're taking this idea that you love, you're sharing it with people, and they say they like it enough that they want to give you money for it and you'll get a royalty. Fantastic. But I've had the experience multiple times where the final end product is so crappy. There's really not a better word for it. I mean, you see the reviews and people say, oh, this is a great idea, too bad it's a piece of crap. That just breaks your heart because you put so much energy into getting it to that point. And I knew that we would not do that here. That was extremely exciting. The other part, I think the other reason that some of these established companies don't have a lot of choice. They're battling for this planogram in a retail environment that they've been in for years and years. And their innovating is really less about solving a problem and more about creating a product for a price point. And our focus was the other side, which is looking at how can we make every touch point, every single piece on this over-deliver, because I think over-delivering is an underused strategy. And we thought we'd see what we could do with it. Here you can see the coolest. It is chock full of features, and all of these features existed when we showed it on Kickstarter. So how do you over-deliver when you have all these features? You don't want to keep throwing more random things. Okay, here's a carrot peeler. Here's a shoehorn buffer. Here's a shotgun rack. That's not the way that you're going to create a more memorable and higher quality product, is by throwing things that don't tie in. Each of these features is very specifically solves a problem that I've personally encountered with other coolers and looked for a way to improve. So the focus was on the touch points. And from a design perspective, thinking that every time someone interacts with the coolest, any piece that they touch needs to feel from first touch that this is not a cooler. Every cooler that I've ever had is broken within 1 or 2 seasons, and it's been a frustrating experience. They're inexpensive, they're blow molded, they just don't have that feeling. 43 million hard-sided coolers are made every year, and it's not because they last a long time. So our focus was on all of these touch points, from little things like we said originally we'd have a bottle opener in the front. Well, we said, okay, let's put a magnet back there so you can actually catch the caps and you're not, you've got them all collected in one space. Or taking these extra wide, sand rolling wheels and rubberizing them so you could actually roll it through your house, fill it up in the kitchen, and bring it across your hardwood floors without, concerns. And the speaker and making sure that that was not just a Bluetooth speaker, but an actual great sounding speaker engineered to fit in this space. The engineering for the coolest alone came to over $1 million. And a lot of that is around the blender and each of these features, making sure that they deliver on that promise and they over-deliver on that promise. There really isn't a battery-powered blender that is anywhere close, pushing anywhere close to the performance that we hit with the coolest. And then we've got to almost militarize it because some people, the way people treat a blender and how they treat a cooler is very different. And until it gets out in the wild, we have no idea what we'll expect. And we don't want to have a little caveat around, oh, well, you should have, handled it in this way, or I can't believe you put it in the outside of a truck down the interstate. I mean, it's got a blender. What are you thinking? So these are these little touches. But again, it always came back to that central point. We've got all these people who have generously backed us. What can we do to get these features they love into something that's beyond what their expectations were? The way to do that is you need to find great people. And you need to leverage the things that you don't already know how to do, which for me, there's a lot. I started off by reaching out to the people in my neighborhood. And I asked the smartest people that I knew to reach out to the smartest people they knew and to come together, and bought them all dinner, and we sat down and they helped map out the pitfalls that I had no idea I was going to be up against. This core group helped me find some of the earliest people who helped assist with some of the manufacturing challenges that I would have, and connected me with the right people who could help with the IP strategy to make sure that we could go a long way anywhere in the world with Coolest for our brand and our trademark, and then helped make sure that the IP that we had around cooler innovation, that frankly I had drafted myself, was a step above that, because with this opportunity and now it's out in the world, we've got to make sure that that's something that we can leverage in the years to come. And so we did that. But it's also around the engineers that we found and the industrial designers and the people who helped us find the right manufacturers overseas and helped explore US manufacturing and the logistics and fulfillment and shipping. These are the outside groups that all came within this network of people who knew people. That's the great thing about Portland. There's so much happening here that you're maybe 1 or 2 degrees separated from the most talented, amazing people you could imagine. And it goes the same for our Coolest employees. To a T, they are all extremely dedicated, creative, experienced, and passionate people who care about not just making this product and not just about a monetary payday, but also about our goal of getting people outdoors and connecting again outside. So that's been a big focus around quality as well. And then communication. When you have this many people who are going to be following you from when you take their money to when they eventually get a cooler, it's a challenge. You really need to put a lot of energy, and we did, put a lot of thought and energy into how we can best communicate that. Because with this many people, we have a large percentage of Kickstarter backers and veterans, but we also have and pulled in a lot of people who had never heard of Kickstarter or crowdfunding concept or what that meant until they saw the Coolest cooler on, on television someplace. And we were very lucky, and we worked very hard to connect with so many sources that could help share our story and spread our story to get us there. But as exciting as the story is from an underdog guy who's got an idea and makes it big, the next chapter that also sells is that guy failing. And that's what we had to make sure that we were communicating clearly, the process and the expectation, and being transparent in the process of bringing a product to life. And we didn't feel like we could do that with the standard updates. Some people, every time we had a technical update, just said, "Where's my damn cooler?" And other people said, "Why aren't you telling us what's happened this week? What's the status of the color selection and how many screws?" I mean, you'd be amazed at the level of detail that some people want and other people can't believe you would possibly tell them. So self-selecting was a big part of our strategy. And so we created this countdown page, which every week we would share our production updates, and people could sign up and get this update, very detailed. Or if they just wanted to stop here, they could just take one snapshot look at the top and see kind of this loading progress. We've all installed software, and if it just sits there and does nothing, you think your computer's dead. But as long as you see that little blue bar move a little bit, you're like, okay, I can keep waiting. It's moving. It's going slow, maybe. I wish it was going faster, but at least it's moving. So that was our thought around communicating in an excellent way. Let's see here. Oh, it looks like this is in here too. Great. Here is the Coolest cooler. This is our prototype that was fresh off the boat right before the 4th of July. Landed on the 3rd with our Coolest just before the 4th. So So, will this strategy be successful? Only time will tell. I really shouldn't have hit start. Let's see here. Sorry, Dig Dug. Oh, I guess I can't kill you back here. Anyway, we're going to find out very soon if our strategy pays off. Today, as I mentioned, is the first day that our earliest backers get to get their hands on their coolest, get to take it out in the wild, and give us their feedback. And our fingers are crossed because we're tremendously excited about where we can go next from there. Thank you.
Did you know that I'm talking?
I did, yes.
Have a seat.
I didn't know where I was talking
Yeah,
to.
right
Yes, I
here.
knew you
Have
were
a
here.
seat. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Ryan. Best Father's Day gift ever, don't you think?
Coolest.com, people. It's now available.
So we'll open this up for questions in a couple minutes, but I just want to sort of establish a base of understanding about a few things.
Sure.
And for those of you who were at TechFest last year, Ryan was kind enough and really easy. He actually came and in the lobby was making margaritas for people. So we figured the least we could do is ask you to come back and tell us.
Don't tell Amzi.
Don't tell Hamsi, right. As you well know, you oftentimes learn more from your failures than your successes.
Yes.
And you've had several. You had an invention to a different way of hanging pictures. You had a jello slingshot.
Yes, the shotapult, jello catapult,
And my guess is the crowd may want to hear a little bit about that, but I guess more important, what did you learn from those failures? And you failed the first time with Coolest.
Yeah, that is a good point. This was my second time bringing the Coolest out. This launched in July. We tried to launch it in November with an earlier version that was basically the kind of an existing cooler box with the same features in there, basically, and set a goal of 125,000. And right on midnight Christmas Eve, it failed. It crossed the six-figure mark, which was really exciting. But ultimately, with Kickstarter, if you don't get your money, you get nothing from it. And same thing with these other concepts. In fact, you barely scratched the surface of my inventions that.
Oh, please do share.
Yes, did not make it to market. But when you mention failure, I think technically that's true. You can say, did you do it or did you not? It's a failure or success. But my perspective is, we just learned one way that it doesn't work. In fact, with that first campaign, we learned a lot of things that we should not have done. We learned other things that we should do. And we connected with so many people who, while not enough to fund the project, were very passionate about the idea, which helped reinforce that it was a good idea. It's easy for someone who comes up with an idea to fall in love with it, especially if you just ask your mom and dad if it's any good. But when people vote with their wallets, even if it's not as many as you'd like, when they're very passionate about it, you can get some great feedback. So we brought the design to the level that I knew it needed to get to. We learned that lesson. We focused on really building up a bigger list of people rather than spending our campaign trying to connect with these people, more reaching out, getting that list before so we could get a lot of potential energy ready for day one to hit. And then we thought maybe the summer would be when we should bring a cooler out. So
just take a minute. The jello, what did you call it?
Okay, yeah, I didn't know if we were going to circle back to the shotapult. But so the shotapult, the shotapult was my first, what I would call my first invention. It started as a tradition with my friends. We're a lot of Montana guys. We would get together this is after college, we'd get together in San Diego and we'd rent a place on the boardwalk. And you could drink on your patio and you could drink on the beach. But there were a lot of tickets that would happen if you tried to cross or you're standing on the boardwalk. And so as a laugh.
You mean carrying your drink across the boardwalk?
Well, sometimes you'd be standing there or sometimes people would be passing drinks from one side to the other. Anyway, we thought it would be, what we needed was some way to launch them across. And so the next year, as a joke, I made this catapult that would launch jello shots. And it turned out to be so much fun that the next year I improved it, and then it got to be something where each year I would tweak it and improve it. And so many people, as it got more refined, asked about it and said, where did you get this and how could I buy it? And that was that first inkling. This was something that I made only as a passion project, only as something to entertain my friends, and to solve a problem that, unless you're in this this like 2-mile stretch, you do not have this problem. But it ended up being so much fun to use that I have friends today who, there's only a few left, and I get calls around the holidays that they want to borrow the Shotapult and bring it out. It's very popular with the kids and all these things. And this is what started me kind of on my path for inventing. Because of that excitement to get, people were asking how they could get it. So I went about the path of trying to figure out how to manufacture this and bring it to market, and made too long of a list of mistakes to even get into. But it was not a failure in that I did get invited to the Playboy Mansion to launch jello shots. And so I figured if I never got another dime, that's good enough for that invention. And I could take those lessons and apply them to the next one.
A lot of people are going to be cornering you after this, wanting to hear the details. So just let's make sure we understand. You are now shipping coolers to original investors.
Yes.
And at some point it'll appear in retail stores?
Well, it's where we're at right now is where we promised we would be back in November. When you launch on Kickstarter, you tell people when it's going to come out. And my initial goal was 50,000, and we said February. And after last summer, 26,000% to goal. And when we connected with our final manufacturing partners, we took a couple months after the campaign, readjusted, and realized it would be July when we'd be shipping. So back in November, we said shipping in July. I always thought we'd be ahead of that curve. Our manufacturers suspected we might be behind that curve, and in the end, we hit it.
But is the plan to make this available retail at some point?
Yes, it absolutely is. We have a lot of interest.
Have you had those conversations
We have had some of those conversations. I think as a brand, especially with the time that we're under, in focusing on the highest level of quality, getting it out there as fast as it can be with a small staff, you have limits around where your attentions can go. It's typically whatever the biggest, closest fire gets your attention that day. And we have, all of last summer and this spring and continuously, we have requests from international distributors and US distributors and rep groups and some big retailers who are interested in carrying the coolest. And we're in the process right now of sorting out who that will be and how that will be and how we're going to best get the coolest to market. But it is now available direct to consumer. On our website, people can order it at coolest.com. And for us right now, that's the strategy until otherwise grandly announced.
There you go. And then how many employees do you have?
We have 5 full-time employees.
All right. And manufacturing is done in China?
Manufacturing is done in China. We have a number of consultants who are helping us with some of these other challenging areas. These are not my core competencies. We found experts, and that's worked out very well.
And you've been going back and forth there quite often?
Yeah, this was my 5th trip. I just arrived today.
Thank you for doing that.
Back. Yeah, and it's almost maybe 8 or 9 weeks this year alone.
There you go.
Those travels. Yep.
All right, so let's open it up. If anyone has any questions, the mic will find you. Raise your hand. There's one down there. There's one there. Go for it.
Cool. Hey there. Thanks for speaking today.
Oh,
so
sure.
I had some good advice. I'm back here, back
There
left.
we go. Oh, there we go. Okay, great.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
So I had some good advice given me once, and they said if you're trying to figure out where you want to go, you can think about what your day might be like as you go throughout the day. So someday if you want to be an inventor, what's your day look like as an inventor? So kick that over to you. What is your day like?
Yeah. My day, well, first of all, I'll say that I am a very lifestyle-centric guy. I care very much about how I spend my time and how I spend my day. And this last year plus, is not my perfect balance of a work-life mix, especially someone who likes the outdoors and spending time with friends and family. But it's very exciting, and it's very challenging, and it's pushed me to personally learn things that I never thought about learning or expected that I would be doing. When you have this level of overwhelming success and this kind of a deadline, you just don't have the choice. So you just have to put on every hat that needs to be put on and find people who can do what you can't do. And I guess I would say that my day right now is longer than I would like it to be, but the opportunity right now to make this into something that would be that perfect work-life balance and be a very meaningful brand that's doing, creating fantastic products and getting it out in a way that is truly interesting is worth it.
Did that answer your question? Because I'm not sure, frankly, you did.
Okay.
I mean,
I'll blame it on the jet lag and the vodka.
But yeah. in the startup world, typically you spend so much time on sales, right?
Yeah.
That's not your situation.
That's right.
You've now got fulfillment as the challenge.
Yeah. Well, the fulfillment and the manufacturing and the brand strategy and the retail strategy, the go-to-market strategy, the hiring strategy. How do I want to spend my time as a product person or as the full-time CEO for long-term? So there are many things that need to be figured out. But my commitment to the backers from the day one was laser focused on quality. And well over 90% of my time has been on executing to that level.
Somebody back there asked me to ask you, how many speeds on the blender?
1 speed.
1 speed.
Yeah, we didn't want to have anyone ask us, how do you turn on your cooler? So we wanted to make it very simple. This has been engineered to do one thing truly well, and that is crush ice and make a fantastic blended drink or a smoothie. I'm sure you can do a lot more with a high power device like this, but I don't know if you would need to make, custard perhaps while you're out camping.
All right. More questions? The mic will find you. I don't know if we have one or two.
Yes, I have a question over here. So obviously you have a lot of work ahead of you with the coolest, but I was just wondering if your mind is still buzzing with new ideas. Are we going to see more products from you? And would you do another Kickstarter, or would you just launch the product?
Yes, my mind is buzzing. It buzzes every day. I notice inefficiencies. And rather than get bothered by them, it's just my mental exercise to imagine how it could be better. And for the most part, they're ridiculous. But when it does strike me, a good idea comes, I capture it, I write it down in an app, and for this last year, it's been close it and then lock it and put it away so I don't get distracted. Because it's too easy when you come up against something challenging to go into a happy place of, ideation. I would say you certainly will see more innovation, and this is the exciting area for me, as a product guy, is to think about what you can do focused on quality without compromise, especially in an outdoor space. What other products in this category could be revolutionized with this kind of attention and this kind of a mindset of solve the problem in the best possible way, as opposed to a price point so it can go through your distributor and it can go to your retailer and wholesaler and onto the customer and fit here in this end cap. So those are the things that I'm really excited about from a product standpoint. And ultimately, getting these products that are so cool that they sit in your house and they whisper at you to go outside and connect with your friends and make these memories, that's what's truly inspiring to me. The second part of the question, I lost. Oh yeah, sure.
Kickstarter.
Kickstarter or direct. I think when you have this many people on a Kickstarter platform, your ability to do something the second time, especially if you've delivered well that first time, is, I wouldn't say easy, but so much easier. So I don't know, it would have to be a pretty specific reason not to go and bring it out on the Kickstarter platform. I'm not sure what that would be. So high probability.
Do you have any patents on the cooler?
Yeah.
You do?
We have 6 pending utility patents, 3 design patents.
And just quickly, what was that process like? Is that
Messy.
Complicated, expensive?
Yeah. What's nice about people with an idea is I truly believe there's never been a better or easier time if you've got an idea, to get it out there and at least get some feedback if it's decent. And this comes down to the accessibility of 3D printing and CAD design and easy outsourced services to help you find people who can complement and fill those gaps, to crowdfunding, where you can actually find out if there's a market for it.
Patents.
I would say the patent process is easier than ever because the provisional patent there's a lot of great resources that walk you through step by step that didn't exist even 3 or 4 years ago. And you can get this provisional patent for a very low cost that will give you enough coverage that you've got about a 1-year gap that you can claim patent pending, basically, and you can put it out in the market and you can have that level of protection. And if you do have the success, then you can find people who can take what you've done and put in the fancy words.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Another question?
You had just barely eked by with the minimum amount to meet your Kickstarter goal. What would the last year have looked like? And what tech talk would you be giving now instead of this one?
Yes, that would be a challenge. I think what would have happened is that if we had just hit our goal, it would be very challenging to be in production, even by this point, what I've learned this last year. My expectation going into it was that it would be simpler, and we would have had to use that as rather than the full go-to-market strategy, it would have been, here's how you take your Kickstarter success and find equity partners to bring this to market, or partner with a brand that has interest in this area and bring it to market through a partnership. So it would be a different story, but I still think I guess it would depend on how much above that 50,000 we hit. It might be a tough sale if we had just passed that. It would be looking back, that has been a moment of terror, thinking back of, oh my God, what would that have looked like? So.
Another?
Yeah, so this product actually reminds me a little bit of Schwood's in that it's a really neat idea that people seem to really have gravitated towards. You mentioned patents. What would be some other barriers to entry that you would have for your product, seeing that it might be easily reproducible now that the idea has gotten so much steam?
Well, one of the biggest questions that we had last year was, aren't you worried about people knocking you off, or someone who is established beating you to market now that you've proven a concept, which happens all the time on the Kickstarter and Indiegogo platforms, which is a shame. What we found is that it's tremendously hard to find companies with blow molding equipment to actually make that outer shell, or a large enough injection molding machine to do that inner shell, and the expertise to actually make a cooler. Most of the coolers are made here in the US, and almost all of them are made by the big brands that are selling in the mass merchant stores. So there's not a lot of availability for these size of machines for a project like that. And if you've got those machines, you wouldn't have the technical capabilities to handle the blender or the Bluetooth speaker or the engineering that goes into making it happen. You might be able to make a smaller version, but I slept much better after we went through the process of finding and vetting the manufacturers that came together to make all the coolest parts, because it really was each of these components was a separate project that had to be integrated and managed and to get that quality. So luckily, knock on wood, we're not. And then there's the investment in the tooling for something this size too. So we feel that we're in a pretty good position right now.
So Ryan flew from China, landed today, and as a commitment to Portland, TechFest is here. So let's give it up for Ryan Grepper.
Hey. I'm so happy to be here.
Thanks for doing it.
Yeah,
really
thanks.
appreciate it.
Absolutely.